operational aspects of manufacturing and the possibilities there. That last speaker will be Tom Janssens. He is a pharmacist, also an industrial pharmacist. He worked for a couple of years for a third-party manufacturer, but since 10 years now, he is with Janssen Belgium in Beersen, and he is moving in different positions, but currently he is the leader of the manufacturing of sterile injectables. Tom, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Josse. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this webinar. I would like to use this opportunity, well, both for introducing J&J, but also as, of course, the opportunities within manufacturing. And to do so, I would like to use the bold statement that J&J is using, Johnson & Johnson is using for our people, is that your career can change the trajectory of health for humanity. And I think that is a very nice goal for most of the people on the line, I think, with their education, is to have an influence on the change we are doing to the trajectory of health for humanity. First, a short introduction on myself, but I think Josse explained the biggest part, so not too long. I'm indeed a senior operations manager currently for Janssen Belgium in Belgium, where I'm leading the parenterals department, where I'm responsible for the compounding, filling, and inspection area. I'm indeed a pharmacist, an industrial pharmacist, is an extra education that is possible within Belgium. Worked within engineering, quality, and operations. Soft skills also highlighted because I find it very important that also soft skills are mentioned. My main focus is ownership, responsibility, and people leadership. Just short introduction in J&J, Johnson & Johnson. So Johnson & Johnson is the world's largest and most broadly based healthcare company in the world, and we are still growing. So our global headquarters are located in New Brunswick, which is in New Jersey in the United States. And today, J&J has more than 137,000 employees worldwide, spread over 230 operating companies in more than 60 countries. And we touch the life of 1.2 billion patients every day. So I think that are striking numbers to show. For our operational areas are segmented in three different sectors. So consumer medical devices and pharmaceuticals. Our consumer business offers the world's largest range of consumer healthcare products and trusted brands within a range of baby care, beauty, oral care, wound care, and women health products. Our medical devices segment has even started in the late 1800s, so very long time ago, starting with sterile surgery and have pioneered revolutions that have saved, improved, and extended the life of generations. We are pioneering innovations from, for example, restoring vision and mobility to ensuring that surgery is safe and effective. Our pharmaceutical business, but more later, is called as branded as Janssen Pharmaceutical Companies. So if you talk about Janssen, those are typically focused on pharmaceutical company, are driving continued growth of our current portfolio while delivering on our near-term product pipeline and investing in long-term growth. The clear ambition of our pharmaceutical branch is creating a future where disease is a thing of the past. So already mentioned that Janssen is touching 1.2 billion patients, customers every day. And these brands shown are a selection of the brands that represent the diversity of Janssen and Johnson & Johnson across the three business segments. And I think the most of people being present on the call are recognizing some of the brands shown. Our pharmaceutical branch on the right hand, there are no product names shown, but are typically focused around 6 therapeutic areas where the Janssen products are focused on. Small introduction or the last step of the introduction of J&J, I would like to use to call our credo, which is the basic fundament of Johnson & Johnson, is a collection of values that challenge us to put the needs and the well-being of the people we serve first. It dates back from 1943, which is already a long time ago, of course, but it's still as relevant today as it was then. And it guides us, J&J, in how we do things at work and in the communities we serve. And because the credo is our foundation for everything we do, every solution we deliver, and every person we hire, I find it very important to show you how that interacts with our company and the people we serve. And it starts with the very first priority, which are our customers. It then goes to our employees, the communities, and shareholders. I just wanted to touch base in the 4 areas. So the first priority are the doctors, the surgeons, the caregivers, and our patients, to really show what we are doing, that what we are doing every day ties into the patient's life. Just short introduction. Want to state this as well. So this next responsibility for J&J is the team, and I think that leads us to provide an environment for dynamic and rewarding career as well as personal growth. So we definitely focus within J&J on personal growth as well as your career, with innovative benefits, etc. The third responsibility is about communities, and that's a very distinct goal of J&J, to also focus on communities, focus on that communities where we live and work is creating a vision of a world where a healthy mind, body, and environment is within reach for everyone and everywhere. And last but not least, it's also mentioned there, it's about our shareholders. So it's definitely not the first priority, but it's one that we still have to keep in mind during our reach. But enough said about the background. So if we look at manufacturing, I already mentioned that Johnson & Johnson is spread over 3 segments. Consumer health on the left hand, in the middle I have indicated medical pharmaceuticals, and the right hand medical device. So as you also can see here, it's a wide spread of operational activities. For consumer health, those are mainly focused around oral liquids, topical creams, band-aids, tablets, capsules, and eye drops, etc. So the typical, if you live in the US, for example, the typical Walmart stuff that you can find there, OTC products here in Europe. Pharmaceuticals is maybe the ones that are more, you can imagine more. Also there, similar products as in consumer health, but also there you can have transdermal patches, for example, for pain or for preventing pregnancy, prefilled syringes, vials, ampules, etc. Medical device is a totally different area. So those are composed or providing contact lenses, implants, prostheses. So you see that that's definitely a separate branch. I have here indicated the pharmaceutical. I have zoomed in the pharmaceutical segment because I think for the most profiles that are on the call, that can be the most relevant part to become part of. But it's very similar to the healthcare or the consumer healthcare, but I will dive into that in just a few seconds. If you look at the typical pharmaceutical company, you can actually distinguish 4 different manufacturing platforms. Meaning you have a small molecule and large molecule. Let's see if you have the drug substance and you have the drug product. Now, what's the difference between small molecule and large molecule? For the drug substance part, so which is the active ingredient, for small molecules, those are typically compounded or manufactured through means of chemical synthesis. While large molecule, for example, the vaccine business that we are doing, COVID vaccines, also other pharmaceutical companies, are often through means of biochemical processes, for example, microbiological process, or for example, as well, viral vectors, etc. Another distinguishment that's been made is drug substance and drug product. I already touched drug substance. So drug substance are really the active pharmaceutical ingredient, which is having the effect on the patient. So that is the drug substance, which is later on formulated in a drug product filled and packed, and then the final form is delivered to our patients. So drug product can be already indicated, solid, liquids, green patches, etc. Large molecule are typically the more recent medicines that are being approved, are typically injectables and vaccines. Just wanted to touch base once again for the consumer business are typically also more comparable to the small molecule setup. Small molecule or easier molecules are typically the older products that already have been approved for many years, but also there still new products are being found, but most of the newer products are situated in a large molecule area. Just to give you an idea, because I think that's also relevant for the people on the call. Of course, there are different countries, different regions where you can get employed. I only have indicated here the pharmaceutical manufacturing location, because if you look at the entire picture, it will be very complex, but we have 70 manufacturing locations for the pharmaceutical part of J&J, located in Europe, Belgium, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Italy, and Ireland, also in Asia, China, Japan, and mainly also heavy business here in the US, of course. Job profiles at manufacturing, because that was, of course, the question you were waiting for. Unfortunately for you all, I can explain there is no ideal job profile. There is no one size fits all. The model we typically use at J&J is a two-dimensional model composing of the what dimension and the how dimension. The what dimension can be defined, for example, by your education, your specialization, and the background. The how dimension is how you behave, how you act, how you interact with other individuals, and also, for example, contains your agility for things in life and the resilience for a case setbacks, etc. So the stronger your what skills and the how skills, of course, your attractiveness for any company, not only J&J, but of course will increase. Now, if you look at the opportunities within manufacturing, for me, that can be divided in two major groups. I think you just saw a presentation around the quality related roles in manufacturing. Those are definitely a supporting function with a strong operational links. You have a large portion of direct operational functions that are really tied to the shop floor, let's say, in manufacturing. If you are interested in a more in a role with a serious portion of people leader skills, then you're typically, for example, in a first line leader role, an operations supervisor, but you can also grow into a management role, for example, an operation manager, operation director, or even a general manager of a manufacturing site. If you are more interested in becoming a subject matter expert, we have roles, for example, operation support or process engineers, which are typically mainly focusing on manufacturing processes and continuous improvement. So those are our standard platform structures for operations. So these roles are typically found in both consumer pharmaceuticals and medical devices. There is, of course, a very big portion of supporting functions that we need in operation: quality planning, procurement, technical services, IT, finance, and many, many more. So also there, they have a very strong link, as already shown in the previous presentation, with operations. So again, coming back in what profiles, my apologies, let's go back. But profiles, we are looking for those kind of roles. We have pharmacists, we have industrial pharmacists, we have industrial engineers, bioengineers, biochemical, biomedical, chemical, and even civil engineers. So there is no real profile there as well. What we typically see for PhD, for example, those are not that present in an operational environment. Those are more present in the R&D part of our business. So I think those are the typical profiles we can have, yeah, spread over the both direct and indirect manufacturing roles. So I think that's the main goal if you are interested to join in J&J. I have here the link, so you can always search and apply for any kind of role. So all open applications can be found there. Thank you.
I was muted. Sorry. Thank you, Tom, for very interesting overview. There was already a question in the chat here. You're mentioning pharmacists and engineers. Any idea about the percentages of both specialities?
No, I think if I look, and I don't have the numbers because otherwise I would have concluded, but if I look to for example, the base side, the base manufacturing side, there are a fairly amount of industrial pharmacists, but I think that's typically in Belgium. I'm not sure if that education exists in other countries as well. But engineers and pharmacists, I think they are 50-50 on those levels.
Yeah. And Maaike, any idea about your side?
We don't have that many pharmacists, but indeed in France, there's a typical master that's called quality assurance management. So at least within quality, I would say it's 60 or 70% maybe pharmacist or any component of quality management as master. But in production, I think it's at minimum 80% more engineering roles.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe a few pharmacists.
Yeah. Is there a difference in profiles that you're looking for, whether you are producing small scale batches for clinical trials, for instance, or in the development of the manufacturing processes and the mass production? Or do you look for similar types of people and it's just the numbers that differ?
It's similar and it's not similar. In the small scale batches, you're typically looking for people with a more scientific background. So those are that can rationalize product parameters and fine tune them with QC results, etc. So those are typically more scientists than where you in a mass scale or a larger scale, you typically focus on the engineering part because there the process has been defined and there you still have to have the technical skills to fine tune and to optimize the process.
Yeah. Both of you, you are in big pharma companies. Now, I know that perhaps more for smaller companies, a lot of them delegate manufacturing to third-party providers. Any idea what that represents overall on a world basis? Is that a minority? Is that for some types of formulations a majority, or is it more for smaller companies? What does it represent, these third-party manufacturers? You've been working in one, Tom, before.
Yeah, also for J&J has, I think I looked to the numbers this morning, we have 96 internal manufacturing sites, while we also use, and be careful, 570 external manufacturing partners.
Oh.
So even with a big pharmaceutical company, is not always capable of having all technologies aboard or even have the flexibility to scale up, etc. So there we also typically make use of external companies as well.
Mm-hmm. It's not only during the COVID period now for the vaccines.
No, definitely not. Also base business.
Okay,
and there you can also think about typically laboratory actions where you would outsource analytical activities. So there are all kinds of types indeed of sub activities that can be outsourced. So that's really very common.
Thank you. If I may, I really would like to thank both speakers because they made two very useful presentations for the participants. And I have a general question, which I think the answer can be useful not only for the participants, but also for the universities. I mean, here I also represent not only UNICA, which is 55 universities, but of course also my own university. We have Professor Susan from Ankara University, Faculty of Pharmacy. We have the full association of the faculties of pharmacies in Europe, represented by Professor Azzopardi. And the general question is, how is this sector going to change in the future? Because we know that things are moving very fast. Machines are becoming more and more intelligent, and maybe manufacturing will be different, I guess, in 10, 20 years. So how, we should prepare better our students for this sector, how students themselves maybe should seek opportunities for training in a different way, thinking about, artificial intelligence, and all kind of, this COVID tragedy, I think also gave a very significant digital push to the society, etc. So I know it's a difficult question, but how could you help us to understand better what is going to happen in 10, 20 years? And again, this can be useful for us and for the young people.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, at least for Sanofi, I can say indeed it's a really interesting topic because the COVID has accelerated the digital roadmaps of most of the pharmaceutical companies, and we see the importance of being paperless. And so you have this whole concept, which is called Factory 4.0, where companies really try to move to a paperless situation. And for Sanofi, we have one of our first factories that we delivered completely paperless. So all activities are fully digital. And so that has great advantages because you rely much more on technical aspects than on people completing papers. And so your whole processes become much more robust with moving paperless, and you don't, also in times of release time, you can really accelerate getting your product to the market and to the patients. So it's really an interesting aspect where indeed, if you think about profiles, automation, people are getting more and more important, and people that have this reflex on how can we introduce artificial intelligence, how do we need to collect and assess our data so that you learn from your data and see how do you need to make your products more robust and your process more robust. So around digitalization, indeed, there's a huge development ongoing. And I think with the introduction of artificial intelligence, that will even go faster.
Thank you.
No, I want to indeed compliment on Mike's story. It's indeed also for J&J. We see that digitalization is speeding up like never before, and to see future skills, it's very important. We call them the digital natives now, the generation that is now ongoing, and like, for example, the people probably on this call, getting crunchy on data to crunch them, to make sure that there is a lot of data visible or available, to make sure that you can cope with those data and really pinpoint the actual items you need. Automation is indeed a very important topic, that a hot topic, where we can elaborate for several hours of probably, but.
So probably, this is again a feedback for us, Lilian and Sibel, because basically at the moment the curriculum is still quite traditional. The students from graduating in pharmacy or in industrial pharmacy, they don't do much of this. So probably is a good idea.
In fact, if I may add, I think from what we've seen from the speakers today, and also by reflecting from the COVID situation, I believe that graduate schools and academics should be looking at skills that are more transferable, in the sense, not only for the digital skills that have been very well explained by Mike and Tom, but also in the sense of preparing graduates in the industry to cope with crisis management. The pandemic, we have seen how industry had to shift some operations. We had industry which was looking at new areas of vaccinology. So I think skills in crisis management whilst maintaining safety and mitigating risks in this area of pharmaceutical industry is an important competence that educators need to start looking into as well.
I agree. What I think is in the future and very near future, I believe, the education will be a mixed education. There will be joint degrees. There has to be anyway with industry and education, not only for pharmacy, for every profession. Probably we need that. Maybe other professions like life sciences, pharmacy, biology, joint degrees to make students ready for the near future and new developments. So it's these kind of maybe meetings and gathering is very, very important to share ideas and use these ideas in important places. So that's why I think the digital world will be very effective, but we will still continue to have this classical education, these joint degrees as well.
And probably also, if I can add, I mean, the impression I received from your presentation, you know, that communication skills, you know, are more and more important, I guess, in these large companies having sites all over the world and, you know, working more and more online. And probably one aspect also that we should maybe increase in terms of education is related to ethics, probably, you know, because I think in pharmaceutical companies more and more you have ethical choices, you know, to make. And again, at the moment is very limited the education in this part of the traditional curriculum of pharmacy.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
The participants, of course, I mean, the floor is still open if you want to ask questions to our colleagues. I think it's a very good opportunity to have yeah, of course, you know, please look at the websites of the
Yeah, I think the question from Alaya is interesting indeed. If you are a young graduate, what are the opportunities? And there are definitely many options for starters. Personally, I would say if you look for a quality job, I think it's very important to first have a production experience so that you really understand what's happening on the shop floor before you will be responsible for the quality oversight. But both options are possible, both in manufacturing and in quality. There are a lot of starter roles where you can start as a production expert on the shop floor or as quality operational associate, where at entry level you can get started. So I think there are many opportunities available. And also with the crisis for COVID, we see a lot of increase of production. So I think for Janssen for Sanofi, exactly the same, and many of our colleague companies, it's really an increasing business to make sure that we get these vaccines out as soon as possible. So I think at the moment there are really many opportunities in all kind of areas. So it's an interesting time to start working, I would say.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, so it's almost time. I mean, if there are no other questions, Joss, again, if you agree, we can actually close now this session. We thank very much again the speakers, I mean, Tom and Michael for the time you dedicated to this event. Again, very useful also because now the recording will be available, so many other students and young people will look at the recording later on. This is what is happening on the UNICA website. And again, thank you for your clarity and the information you provided. I also again want to thank Joss again, and Lilian and Sibel, Ruben, Laura, everyone who participated to this event. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Have a nice afternoon and evening.
And
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Laura Colò.
Thank you.